You're listening to A Slice of Therapy with me, Alun Parry. Now, my car is an automatic. I'm not a huge fan of driving really, but when I do drive, the car that I drive is an automatic car. And so as I'm trundling about in the car, it changes the gears for me, which is great. I don't have to worry about the clutch. I don't have to worry about finding the bite. I don't have to worry about stalling. I can simply drive. And then all outside of my awareness, the car's just doing its thing, changing my gears for me, which is nice. And yet there's sometimes where I really wish I had a gear stick, that I wish I could take control and change the gears on the car. So for instance, when I'm coming onto the motorway, so there's a particular junction that I often enter, and as I'm going up the kind of ramp, if you like, the driveway onto the motorway, I'm really needing to speed up from the kind of slow pace that I've been at to a much quicker pace so that by the time I reach the motorway, I'm going at the right amount of speed. And so in those moments, I would really like to be able to change the gears and get moving a lot quicker. And yet I can't. And so what I notice that I do, despite the fact that I don't have any direct control over the gear stick, I do this thing where initially I'll put my foot down and I realise that it's not going to go any fast, it's not going to change gear. And so I'm kind of stuck at this speed. But I've realised that if I take my foot back off the gas again, just briefly, and then put it on, that action of removing my foot and putting it back down again, it changes the gear and I can move on to the next level rather than being held back. And it's strange really because I don't have a gear stick. And yet there I am. I've somehow been able to coax my car into changing the gear in exactly the way that I want and need it to, despite not actually having a gear stick. Now, we're like this ourselves, aren't we? Because there are some aspects of us that we're in total control of. I am simply speaking at the moment because I've chosen to speak, and I'm able to directly control that and make it happen. I can lift my arm, I can click my fingers, as you can hear me doing there in the background. I can hop about. There's so much that I can control. I can clap my hands, I can tap myself on the head. So much of my body I have direct control on. And yet so much of my body I don't. I can't, in the same way as I can click my fingers, I can't just dilate my pupils. I can't simply make a decision to, in the way that I've made a decision to speak. I can't just dilate my pupils. I can't lower my heart rate, just decide to. I think I'll lower my heart rate, as I might lower my head or lower my arms or my shoulders. I can't lower my heart rate in the same way. I can't even fall asleep that way. When we go to bed, we don't just get into bed and go, right, sleep. In the way that I could clap my hands. I could get into bed and clap my hands on that decision, but I couldn't simply decide and then suddenly be asleep. It doesn't work that way. So there's a huge aspect of our physical selves that we have no control over, just like the gear stick on my car. And yet, just like my car, I can still find a way somehow to coax those things into happening. The fact that I don't have any direct control doesn't stop me from being able to get the outcome I want. But it's not from control. It's not because I'm able to control my arms in the way I can when I'm clapping. It's really through some kind of self-seduction, I suppose. And what I mean by that is that I don't have any direct control over it, but I can change something else in order to make it happen. So I can change something else in order to seduce my own body to do the thing that I want, even though I don't have direct control over it. So if I want my pupils to dilate, then I can simply go into a dark room and they will. I don't have any control over it, but I can still bring it about. If I want to fall asleep, I'll cuddle into my pillow, I'll turn the lights off, I'll maybe play a soothing meditation. I can't tell myself to go to sleep in the way that I can move my shoulders up and down, but I can seduce myself into sleep. And if I want to lower my heart rate, I can do that through my breath. I can just breathe more slowly, making sure that my out-breaths last longer than my in-breaths. And then lo and behold, I will seduce my own heart rate into beating much less fast, slower in fact. Now, these are not acts of control, as you can see. I don't have control over these things, but they're acts of persuasion, self-seduction as I'm describing it. So what if we applied the very same principle to other things that we don't have direct control over? Now, if anyone tells us to just be confident, it's really difficult, isn't it? You can't just tell yourself to be confident or to feel alert or to feel happy or whatever else we might want to feel. But we can seduce ourselves into these states. So just like every time I put stock vegetables and beans together, I get my famous homemade soup. And so in the same way, these states like confidence or focus or contentment or happiness or whatever, we can't control them directly, but just like my soup, these states also have ingredients. So what state do you want that you can't simply control, like clapping your hands? What are the ingredients that seduce you into that state? Now think of a restaurant. It's not possible for them to control you into feeling relaxed and at ease. They don't have any direct control over that. They'd like you to feel relaxed and at ease so you can have an enjoyable time in their restaurant. And then you'll say, oh, wasn't that good in that restaurant? Let's go back. So they would like you to feel relaxed and at ease, but they can't directly control it. So what do? They create an ambience. They control something else in order to invite, seduce, persuade you into that state of relaxation and ease. They will put some soft lights. They will have candles on the tables. They will be playing nice music, all to create an ambience that will result in you feeling relaxed and at ease. And so there's lots of things about ourselves and about life itself that we don't have any direct control over. But what are the things that you want that you can't directly control? What are the states that you want to be feeling that you can't directly control? And what can you do now that you know it's possible and how much it happens all the time in life? What can you do to coax them into being through this art of self-seduction? So let's have a quick recap. I spoke at the start, didn't I, about my little car. And it's an automatic, like I say. So I don't have any direct control over the gearbox, but I explained that nonetheless I can coax my car to change gear as I approach the motorway. And we looked as well as how that was a real metaphor for ourselves, because even though there's certain things we can do, like clicking our fingers or nodding our head, just because we choose to, there's so much that we can't, like lowering our heart rate or dilating our pupils, all sorts of things that we just don't think about, but our body is doing for us all the time. And yet we saw that we can seduce ourselves to make those things that we don't have direct control over still happen. We can decide to change something else in order to give us the outcome that we want. And so we saw that if we apply that principle to the kind of things that we want to feel, then they too will have certain ingredients to them, just like any recipe, I suppose. And so you can investigate and think, well, what are the ways that I'm most likely to bring about a feeling of happiness? I always feel happy when I see a dog. And I know not everybody likes dogs, and some people are even afraid of them. And I understand why. But for me, a nice little dog always makes me feel joyful somehow. And so I know if I want to feel joyful, I can look at a picture of a dog or go for a walk in the park and see some dogs and I'll feel happier. And so we can seduce ourselves in this way by changing the environment, much like a restaurant will do in order to get us to feel relaxed and at ease, even though they can't actually control that state and make sure that it happens. And so, now you know that you can seduce yourself like this. Now you know that all of these things in ourselves and in life that we have no direct control over can still be kind of coaxed and seduced into a different place. What are the things that you can't control? What are the states that you would like to enter? And when you look at how you tend to have brought them about in the past, what can you do to reliably coax them into being? If you found this episode useful, please do share it so other people can get the benefits as well. If you'd like to work with me directly, I'm Alun Parry, and you can find more about me at liverpoolpsychotherapy.co.uk. And of course, you don't have to be local to me because I work online, so you can be based absolutely anywhere. And of course, please subscribe to the podcast as well, because it's absolutely free and it means that you'll never miss an episode again. So thanks for listening, and I'll see you again on the next one.